Hi, you are about to begin the ELA Guidebooks unit because of Winn-Dixie. In this video, you will learn why authors use a story within a story, or what is called a nested story. This is a technique used in the novel Because of Winn-Dixie. Be sure to have your handout and something to write with while you watch this video. Do you finish every book you pick up? As a reader, what keeps you turning the pages and wanting to read more? Authors are always thinking about what will make a reader excited about their book. Authors use different ways to make a story more interesting. When an author is writing a narrative story, they might tell a short story within a story to help you get to know the characters and learn more about them. Sometimes the second story makes it more interesting. One technique authors use when writing a story is nesting. Nesting means that one thing fits inside another. Similar objects stacked together create something bigger. A nested story can help a reader to understand characters or other elements of a narrative story. A nested story fits inside the bigger storyline. Nested stories are usually told by a character that is not the main narrator or person telling the story. The author can make this happen by including a flashback, which is when the character thinks back to another time. Sometimes a letter is included to describe an event. Another way to include a nested story is by having a character tell a story to another character. Author Kate DiCamillo uses this technique in the book Because of Winn-Dixie. When the main character Opal first meets Miss Franny Block, the librarian, Miss Franny Block tells her about one time many years ago when a bear came into her library. She prepares to tell the story by saying, "Let me get a chair and sit down so I can tell this story properly. Back when Florida was wild, when it consisted of nothing but palmetto trees and mosquitoes so big they could fly away with you," Miss Franny Block started in. "And I was a little girl no bigger than you." Her story about the bear is an example of one character telling another character a story. Doesn't this nested story from Because of Winn-Dixie help you to learn something interesting about Miss Franny Block? This nested story makes the reader want to learn more about the character. Now you are ready to explain what a nested story is. Can you provide at least 2 ways an author can include a nested story? Pause this video to record your answers on your handout at stop sign number 1. Then hit play when you are ready to continue. Let's check your work. A nested story is a story within a story. The author can make this happen by including a flashback, a letter, or a character telling a story to another character. Nested stories have been used by authors throughout history. A story within a story can make it more interesting by adding layers to the characters or plot. Adding a nested story can add surprise, influence the end of the story, change the reader's point of view, teach more about a character's history, create empathy. Empathy means to understand another person's feelings. Let's take a look at the conversation between Miss Franny Block and Opal again. When Miss Franny is starting to tell another story about a time when a bear came into her library. As I read the excerpt, think about what we just learned about some of the reasons why an author may include a nested story. "What about the bear?" I said. "Did I mention that Florida was wild in those days?" Miss Franny Black said. "Uh-huh, you did. It was wild. There were wild men and wild women and wild animals. Like bears." In this case, the nested story teaches about a character's history. Let's apply what you have learned. Why does an author include a nested story or a story within a story? Pause the video now and write your ideas at stop sign number 2 on your practice sheet. Push play when you are ready to continue. Now let's see how you did. Authors use a nested story to make a story more interesting by adding surprise, influencing the end of the story, changing the reader's point of view, teaching more about a character's history, and creating empathy. Nested stories also help the reader to get to know the character's history and how they might change in the story. Nested stories or stories within a story help readers understand characters and make stories more interesting. As you are reading Because of Winn-Dixie, notice when the author uses a nested story and think about why she chose to do so. You may also want to try this in your own story writing. When you finish this video, be sure to turn in your completed handout to your teacher.